This is JD with the Biz Kidz Podcast. We are back with our third episode, and we're excited to have another guest with us, Ella, today. We'll get right into Ella's introduction here just in a second, but I wanted to remind you, if you found us for the first time, this is the Biz Kidz Podcast. What this is we interview kids that have started businesses. And why do we do that? Is because it helps other families, parents, kids kind of get the ideas of how do I start a business. In our program, we're with the Young Entrepreneurs and Rising Stars is our nonprofit, and we help inspire entrepreneurship in kids. And we have over 1,000 kids that have come through our program that have started businesses. And so we want you to get an idea of how they did it, so it makes it easier for you. So what we always like to teach as our first rule, or our first thing that we want to get through the kids' heads, or our students' heads, is how do you do your 60-second pitch, and how do you let people know what you're doing? So Ella is going to start off with her 60-second pitch to let us know who she is and what she does, and then we have a bunch more questions for her about her business and how she got it started. And so Ella, go ahead and start with your 60-second pitch.
All right. So my name is Ella. I'm 15. I've been doing Biz Kidz since I was like 12 or 13, right? And I have a business. It's called For Dog's Sake. I started it with Biz Kidz. I created that idea. It's a hands-free dog leashes so that you can walk your dog hands-free. I created the idea, like I said, when I was like 12 or 13, and I didn't even know I was going to sell leashes until my dad actually knew JD, and he was like, Ella, you have to do this. This is super cool. And my first event was in Ave Maria. I made $500 my first day ever. It was amazing. And I mean, after that, I was hooked. I mean, I've done, I think, over 30 events now. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yep.
It's been a lot. So the past, whatever, 3 years, 2, 3 years, I don't know. It's been fun. So, I mean, I've seen a lot of other kids have a lot of fun doing it too. So
nice. So how did you come up with the idea for a crossbody leash?
Yeah, so I came up with the idea out of my own need, basically. So I have a story I always kind of tell. I was in Baker's Park, which is in Naples, Florida. And it's like this beautiful park, and there's like lots of walkways and paths and stuff. And then there's where like my grandma, there's a little playground, so my grandma and brother would like sit over there. And I'd be walking around my dog. I'd be carrying, my water bottle, my purse, my dog, whatever. And my grandma would be like texting me, asking where I am. Like, Ella, are you still alive? I'm like, I'm pretty sure. But it was really chaotic, trying to text her back as fast as possible so she doesn't worry and stuff. And so that, I came up with the idea. I bought the stuff to like make it with my Christmas money. And it's just me just walking around Baker's Park, just thinking the idea up. I just started making them.
Great. Now, when you made your first one, I assume you tested it out on your dog. Did you get like feedback from other people? Did they go, hey, that's a pretty cool idea? Or how did you get the idea to like, hey, maybe I should start selling these?
Well, I mean, I didn't go anywhere necessarily with my leashes. I know I had a couple like friends, like our family friends, be like, hey, Ella, that's really cool. And like, I think that kind of gave me the idea to sell them. And I mean, and it was like, of course it was like trial and error too. Like when I first made it, it wasn't as good as end product it is now. And I remember I made like a practice leash that wasn't even crossbody. It was just a normal dog leash. So it was a little bit of trial and error, but I figured it out eventually. And then, yeah, when I heard like people would be like, hey, you should sell that. Like, yeah, I really wanted to.
So at your first event, you sold $500 worth of product?
I did,
wow.
Yeah.
So what has been your biggest day, or what has been your biggest win so far?
So my biggest day of selling was in Santa Florida. It was at Fisherman's Village on 4th of July. And I made, I think it was $1,092 in one day. So I think that's really cool.
Now, was that your biggest? Because I think it was Cape Coral just this last January, where you were going to show up to the event on a Saturday, and you got sick, And then on Sunday, you showed up and you had to make up for the extra day that you lost. And how much
Oh
did
my
you do on
gosh.
that Sunday?
That day I made $1,400. Yeah.
You're making so much money, you can't even remember your
I
biggest
know.
day.
I know. I always talk about it. And before that day, I always am like, oh, that day in Punta Gorda was my best. So it's like, that totally went over my head.
Well, I think it's great that you're making that kind of revenue off of your leashes, especially just most of our events. If you're not familiar with us, we do Biz Kidz Markets throughout Southwest Florida, and we give the kids the opportunity to sell their products to the general public. And so we partner with other events that are already going on. So we have a good crowd of people, and the average kid sells about $275 worth of product. Now, Ella is not the average. She is one of our top earners, and she really knows how to bring in the revenue. And so it's great to see that. And I know she invests a lot of her revenue right back into her products, making more leashes. And you haven't found a way to mass market these leashes yet. You have to make them all yourself. How long does it take you to make one leash?
It takes about 45 minutes to an hour. So it's 11 feet of braid. So it takes a while. And then also cutting out all the pieces and stuff takes a bit too.
And do you happen to have a leash handy so you can show us?
I can grab one.
We'll come back to that at the end. And so,
Okay.
So what was one of the things that you've learned in your business so far that was kind of a struggle that you thought, oh, that didn't work out, but I learned a big lesson from it?
I think, and I've talked about this like with you before, and I think it's like the leashes that I think would sell aren't the leashes that sell. Like the specific colors. Like, and that's just something I feel like that hasn't worked for me because I kind of put my own opinion like on it, like on the products or whatever. And I feel that it's more like you have to see what other people want. You know what I mean? That's what I've learned is it's not really about what I think. It's about what everyone else thinks. So
we see that a lot with any entrepreneur that comes up with an idea. They say, hey, this is what it should look like. But you do have to listen to your customers and who's buying it to say, this is what we want. And so understanding that is crucial for your business to know what your customers want, because you could produce all the colors that you like. It doesn't mean they like those colors. So that's a great lesson to learn. As you've been doing this as well, how do you market other than at these events? Like, what's the best way for you to get people's attention on doing this?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question like I'll walk in? Sorry.
So how do you get, when you're at in a market, how do you get people's attention to actually talk to them and get them interacting with you about your leash?
So my like star question, I guess, to attract people is, do you have a dog? So the reason I say that is because if you were to, you know, someone's walking by and you're just like, oh, do you want to look at my products? A lot of people are just like, no, whatever, I'm just walking, you know? But when you ask them like a question to get their attention, it's like they feel like they have to answer, right? They don't want to be rude. So they feel like they have to answer, and it's almost like a little psychology trick, and I think that's really cool. Like, whatever you say to those people has to grab their attention, and something like a question grabs their attention. Like, do you have a dog? They're like, what? Why? What do you mean? And then you get to talk to them. So that's how you grab their attention, just by asking the question, and especially a personal question. Like when you, like, if you were, I don't know, some other question that was like less personal, I don't think that would, be as effective. But because and also everyone wants a dog. So like everyone's going to answer to that.
And starting the conversation is the key. And I'll brag on you. I was actually at an event where somebody came and they had a leash in their hand and they said, I don't even own a dog. But the way she told me about this leash, I bought one. And he goes, I will give it away as a gift to somebody that has a dog. He says, but she killed it in her presentation on how she pitched it to me. And so I think that's great that you interact with people. One of the things that we see a lot, and when you're a young entrepreneur or even a new entrepreneur, and an adult entrepreneur that's new in your business, when you're doing a festival or you have a booth, we all feel a little timid to try to reach out to people and talk to them because everybody kind of walks by with a scowl on their face and they want to say no. The first thing they want to say is no to everybody. I don't want to buy anything. Well, why are you at a farmer's market if you don't want to buy anything?
Yeah.
So being able to start the conversation and getting them comfortable with you so you can share what you have opens that door. And I think that's the key. I used to be in the lawn care business, and we would do trade shows and home and garden shows. And one of the things that we found that worked really well for us is to get people's attention. You know, we have 1,000 competitors in this venue where we're all trying to get the attention of the customer. And what we came up with is people always want to say no automatically. So we asked the question, have you got your coupon yet? And everybody said, no, I didn't get my coupon. And so then we would have coupons in our hands that we would hand them to it, but then we could start the conversation. And everybody wanted to say no right away. If we asked them a yes question, do you have a lawn? They would, yeah, everybody has, most of the people have a lawn of some type, unless they live in a condo or something. But so we would ask them a no question, and that would at least start the conversation so we could open the door. So I think you've mastered that. And I've also seen you at shows that people walk by with a dog and you've actually chased them down and said, hey, have you seen my leash? So, and I've seen those people walk away with a leash. So congratulations on that. What would you say is like the best business tool that you've used to kind of help you in your business? Is it maybe an app, a website? Have you found anything that you use to do that?
I think Square is like super helpful because I know at my first ever event in Albany, I didn't have Square, like little credit card machine thing. And a lot of people don't carry cash with them anymore. So like having that as another option is really helpful. And when I got that, like I can make so much more money doing that just because they can actually pay. So
and
that's been really
that's
helpful.
The key, You're right. There are a lot of people that aren't carrying cash anymore. And so when you do get their attention, if you have an easier payment option for them that they can use a credit card right there, it definitely is going to increase your sales. We've seen that with a lot of kids that just do cash versus people that have the credit card option as their. Now, eventually, there are some fees to do that. And so you have to factor that into your price of your product and say, okay, I have some fees my credit card fees to process. And so I have to kind of factor that in my overall profit margin as one of my expenses of doing business. And so that's a good one to do. What piece of advice would you give like a young kid coming into the program that has never sold anything and said, hey, I want to try this, but I'm not sure if I can do it? What advice would you give them?
I believe like the more experience you have doing something, the more confident you are. And I feel like that's something really big about myself too. The more I do something, the more confident I am in that thing. So I think I don't think, if you're going into it, if you're a kid going into Biz Kidz, starting your business, I think you have to also stick with it. Because I know, like, sometimes, like, the kids I'll see, they'll be a little nervous, and I'll go over and talk to them and talk about how, like, it's okay to be nervous, but you have to kind of, the more you do it, the more confident you get, right? So I would give the advice, just, like, stick with it, because it's not as simple as just doing it and then, like, oh, you're making a ton of money and you're so confident. That's not how it works. You have to build confidence. Like, I know at my first event, like, in the beginning, I was a little nervous, shy, whatever, but I went from being very shy to not shy, apparently chasing people down the street like a dog. So, like, you really have to stick with it. So I would say that's, like, a really good piece of advice. It's not, like, giving up and being able to handle rejection. And I talk about this a lot. It's, like, when, like, we were even talking about it earlier, when people walk by and they say no or whatever, you have to just be able to handle it. Because I know I've had events also where I have a lot of people say no. I'm not making as many sales, and it kind of like puts me down a little bit. Naturally, it's just human behavior, I guess. Human emotions, but I've definitely learned how to overcome rejection, people walking past, and I think that's another important piece of advice.
And that's a great piece of advice, because it is hard when you're sitting in a booth and you're trying to sell something and you go through your whole pitch and they're like, no, I'm not interested. You wonder, are they rejecting me, or are they rejecting the product? And as naturally, we all want to think, they're just rejecting me because they didn't like me. But that's not that at all. It more than likely they have a dozen leashes at home and they're thinking, oh, it's another leash I have to keep watch out for or look for. And so maybe they think they don't see the value there. But it's just getting over that, that fear of being rejected. And once you get over that, it makes it a lot easier. And you don't care if people walk by and look at you and growl at you. And, there's always the grumpy old guy like me. I used to have a shirt that said no soliciting. And so when I went to farmers markets, it actually said no soliciting, so people wouldn't come up and try to sell me anything. And so, everybody has different personalities, and you just have to find those people that are willing to talk to you and let them know about your product. So,
and I think that I've also seen I'll see someone come up to me, they'll talk to me, and they'll be like the most enthusiastic person ever, just wanting to hear about me, hear about the product, so excited to hear it. They're like, this is the most amazing thing ever. Can't wait to use this for my dog. And then I'll have someone right after them just be like, look at me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not even want to look at me. It's weird. And but it's also, you gotta think all these people are different, and there's gonna be another person that's gonna want to hear your product. There's literally billions of people in the world. Somebody is at a farmer's market or something, somebody else is gonna walk by. So it's I know when I stand in front of my booth to grab their attention. That's another trick I've learned. Is not to stand necessarily behind the table, but when you stand in front of it, it's I'm here, talk to me. And when you stand in front of it, and you're watching the people go by, I will see someone say no and walk past me, but it's you have to immediately click it out of your head and go to the next one. That's what you have to do, because that's how you sell. Because if you're stuck just watching, why does this person say no to me? Then then it's just you're gonna be stuck in that and not be able to talk to anybody else. So.
Yeah. And you said you were shy in the beginning. How shy were you? Were your first show, you sold $500, so you must have only been shy the first 10 minutes?
I think so, actually, because I think I sold a leash while I was setting up.
Okay.
And I think I was like, wait a second, what's going on? This is crazy. And I know my first pitch, I have my pitch memorized. I think I've said it 2,000 times probably. And so that, it was just creating that first pitch, trying to get all my points in, but I don't really know what I'm saying. I don't know what's going on because I'm so nervous. But I think once I got the first 5 pitches, I was okay, I can do this. I got this down. It's just, understanding your product and knowing how to talk about it.
And have you decided, or have you looked into adding any other products to your repertoire? I know you sell leashes and you've sold some dog toys, but you haven't really got a lot of traction on the dog toys, right?
No, I mean, usually, I think the dog toys are somewhat helpful though, because sometimes someone will come up and they're well, I don't really want to spend a bunch of money, I'm just kind of here, and so then they'll buy the toy. So that's great. So if you have, I don't think you should just have one product. I think you should have multiple, because someone doesn't want to buy the more expensive thing, it's not a cheaper thing. But I would love to make dog collars, right? Because I think I have so many people go, oh, are these dog collars? I'm no, sorry. And I'm oh, I could have made money off that, but it's hard to create a new product with the same, because I want it all to be the same. My dog toys and my dog leashes are both made of cotton rope, so I would love for the collars to be made of cotton rope, but it's how do you also make them adjustable? I don't know. It's definitely going to be a learning process to create that.
And that's the whole process, right? We figure out what works and what doesn't. As you had mentioned, what we do is celebrate the failures, the things that don't sell and the things that you tried that didn't work. we just celebrate that and go, okay, we figured it out. That's not working. So we need to try to find something different that's going to get our customers' attention. So you're doing it exactly the way it needs to be done. And one of the biggest things entrepreneurs always do is like after the first couple of rejections, a lot of people just give up and say, okay, this isn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do this. And I like the fact that you figured that out, that it's not about you. It's just different people have different taste, and you keep on asking and asking and asking, and you've proven that you can get the sales dollars because you ask and you ask and you ask. So you've done a great job at that. What was, I know you gave us one piece of advice. Where do you see the business as you get into high school and college? Do you want to continue this business? Are you looking at other ideas, or are you looking at other opportunities that say, hey, maybe I like this business instead?
I would love to be able to continue my dog leashes. Like if I I don't know, have an investor or something, like to find a way to manufacture it, I would love to. I feel like it's like my first thing. Like, I mean, I've always been a little bit of an entrepreneur. I I would sew pillows and sell them to my mom's coworkers. I made like $900 a year. Yeah. And so it's like that's kind of who I am. I don't think, and if I came up with something else, if I had another business, and I don't know how, the road leads me, obviously, because I don't know my future, but I would love to have different opportunities, like besides my dog leashes. If I could have, I don't know what other idea I could come up with. I would love to do something.
You want to pursue entrepreneurship in any kind of form. Like you love the sale, you love the chase, and it's in your blood. For us entrepreneurs, that to have that in our blood, it's like we're always looking for opportunities. So I love that. So for those of you that again found us for the first time, the Biz Kidz is all about, and the Biz Kidz Hub is all about our training center. Hopefully you learned something today about persistence on asking, overcoming your fears of customers. This is what this is all about. And we have a lot of parents that come through our program that say, I want my kid to start a business, or they're thinking about it, but I have no idea how to support them and do it. So I hopefully these videos here on the podcast will help you kind of navigate that. And at our Biz Kidz Hub, we have a whole resource center that will help you get connected with us and the community, so you can actually start learning from the community and seeing what worked for other kids, and help get your kids involved in it as well. So as we didn't mention, is also as we get into the more podcasts, we're going to be interviewing business owners, and Ella is going to be one of our co-hosts on that as well. So she is going to be asking some of our entrepreneurs and business owners that have been in it for a long time how they've done it, and we'll get it from a kid's perspective. I'm an entrepreneur for over 40 years, and I've opened dozens of businesses, but I want to hear what the kids that are doing it now, what the questions they want to ask these entrepreneurs, and we learn from them, because they have a whole different perspective of how I look at a business versus how Ella looks at a business. So thank you, Ella, for being here today. Thank you for all of you joining us here at the Biz Kidz Podcast, and we'll be seeing you at our next show. Thank you.